And the works, to be honest, that's the only thing to me that's interesting about travelling around Britain now. Going in the works.
Shit, that's interesting.
Everything that's interesting costs a little bit of money.
Really? That's interesting.
That's interesting.
That's interesting, Wally.
That's interesting work.
Oh, that's interesting. Did you hear they're not going to teach Latin here anymore?
That's interesting.
That's interesting.
That's interesting.
Well, that's interesting.
Hare Krishna? That's interesting, actually. That's interesting.
Well, that's interesting. Because actually there's very little social snobbery in the United States.
That's interesting.
No, that's interesting.
Well, that's interesting. Because I think you did it.
What?
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
That's interesting, but you know, I got other guys lined up. I got a meeting.
That's interesting.
Really? Well, that's interesting.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, that's interesting because we found his prints on multiple items in the car, including a card from a chemist that says he mixed up a batch of cyanide for one Cade McCourt.
That's interesting.